I went back and my agent called me to her house and she said, come at 5:30. And I said, but you close at 5. And she said, come at 5:30. And I sat with my agent and there was something all forlorn about her when I looked at her and I said, are you okay? And she said, no, not really. And I said, why? She said, James, you didn't get this thing. I was finished. I remember she was in Parkhurst at that time. I just walked down. There used to be a restaurant called George on 4th. And I went and just sat at that place. And the waitress kept saying to me, are you going to order something? And I was just like, the disappointment was just unbearable.
702.
The upside of failure.
Proof that a setback can lead to a step forward.
The Upside of Failure on 702 is brought to you by FNB Premier, celebrating 25 years of helping you live the Premier life. And I'm delighted to say that James is with me here in the studio. You're one of the South Africa's most influential artistic leaders. I'm just going to do your CV for you, right? Just in case you've forgotten something. Celebrated for your groundbreaking direction, unwavering commitment to diverse and meaningful narratives, and your journey is weaved through the iconic Market Theatre, where he helped shape its evolution with bold productions and storytellings that pushed boundaries. Very good afternoon to you.
Thank you so much, Jane.
When you were a kid, did you ever think that you would be sitting in a studio talking about your unbelievable successes to thousands of people?
No, definitely not.
How does it feel?
It's exciting, but at the same time, it's something you receive with a lot of humility because I've always believed one's journey it doesn't end. You're constantly learning, and I have the humility to work with people that have been mentors to me, and I'm not an ageist. I work with young people and I learn a lot from young people, just like this sector that I'm in through their eyes. It absolutely excites me because we get into a space where we do storytelling, but we've got contemporary eyes, and so that we're not approaching story from a sentimental space. It's an idea of why we're telling the story, what is the pertinence of the story, who do we think will come to see the story, and all stories we tell have been told before. Then you say to yourself, what is it that we bring to the story that then represents us tackling it now? It's other incarnation.
I'm with you. I'm not ageist. I'm not sexist. I get very excited when I go somewhere and there's somebody who's ancient and there's somebody who's super young, because you think, this is exciting.
Yes.
They've got a different dynamic, a different dimension that we might miss.
Yeah, pearls of wisdom are from everywhere, and we have the joy to just catch them when they come our way.
So, I mean, you've been in so many things. You're the first Black artistic director of the Market Theatre Foundation. That's a role that you held for 9 years. You've had many television roles in Stokvel, the Netflix series Queen Sona, for which you won a SAFTA. So you've got all images, all views, all different experiences in this magical world that you are in.
Yes, and I mean, I started out as an actor, but even then when I was a young actor, I always knew that I didn't want to just be an actor. And I still call myself an actor today because I am an actor.
Yes.
But I'm very excited by the idea of being cast in a story and somebody's leading the vision of the unpacking of that story. I'm excited by the idea of teasing new narratives that can pop out and so you're working on new work, but also you're taking some of the classics and you say, how can we reimagine the story? And so also to be part of the incubation of the next generation of content creators, and so I just love a whole salad of it. That
You're a lucky man.
Yeah, that one is just able to say it's not one thing, it's many things, and when you jump into all those things with a sense of curiosity, it's exciting.
Okay, let's go a little back a little bit. You grew up in KwaMashu, the 10th of 12 children, with a grandmother who spun stories like Oxygen, I believe. What did failure mean in that world?
will be to be without the memory of people who said to you it is possible. And so my grandmother was that for me. I think of her every day. I cook. It's one of my biggest passions in life. I'm always cooking. I'm always thinking of what I'm eating next, and I'm a fussy eater. And I just love the idea of getting in the kitchen and make things. I grow things, and this is all from her. And
Lovely.
And so every time I have a wooden board in front of me and a knife and ingredients, she pops up because she also, when I said to her I was hungry, she said hungry people are in the kitchen. And then and she taught me how to cook, and then I just discovered that I was so passionate with the idea of cooking things, of just making a dish and making people sit and break bread and eat that. And also there's a humility that comes with cooking. You can put your whole heart in cooking, but you have no control over whether people enjoy the food or not.
Yeah.
So what you do, you break your back to make the best dish you'll ever make. And so telling stories also for me, it's on that pedestal. You know, I always say when I'm in the room with actors and say to them, we just got to keep digging and find the truth of these people that will be presenting
no
to
matter
the
how
audiences.
hard or emotional or
Yes, the needs of these biographies that we'll be presenting to the audience. And I believe you must fail with a broken back, not to just sit and go, it will come. Things don't come. You work on them.
So let's go back to that cooking analogy, because I quite like it. I mean, cooking, I suppose, is a bit like life, right? I mean, you try, and sometimes you fail. I remember, as you were talking, and I'm a kind of hit and miss cook, but I was living in London, and we had a friend and I had a whole lot of people over, and the meal was an absolute disaster. It was and we were dying inside. But in a way, it kind of spurted a little bit of growth. I mean, do you think cooking can do that too? If you botch it up, you go, okay, hold on. Okay, that was a disaster, so maybe I need to tweak this. Maybe I need to tweak this and add a little bit more spice here.
And be adventurous when something has always gone with a certain type of a herb, and then you do a what if.
Yeah.
You know, yes, you know, and those are my two favorite words. Beyond what if, there is discovery. And then you constantly, and you're talking about cooking. Last year, I cooked for a bunch of friends. We were at the festival in Edinburgh.
Oh, my favorite.
And I just I woke up that morning, I went for a very long walk, and I was thinking, what do I make for these people? And some of the people that I was cooking for, I know they cook very well, and I made a Babette's feast for these people, and I just and you cook with an idea of, if somebody surprised me with a meal, what would excite me? Then I get into the into that space of just really putting dishes together that ooze heart. And that also say you curated the lunch.
Well, I mean, you said Babette's Feast. I remember watching that movie then afterwards going, I need food. You could smell it coming through the screen. It was extraordinary. But let's go back to your youth. I mean, when you were growing up and you've got this incredible grandmother who's stimulating you and your creative juices, were there moments where you were teased, where something didn't work for you at school, where there was some event that backfired, that made you or helped you become what you are today?
Yeah, I mean, part of the teasing also when I was growing up, I was rubbish at soccer. And I was so passionate.
Not cool for a kid.
Yeah, I was so passionate about it, and I'm growing up in the township. There isn't a lot of options sport wise, and there was something about soccer that just really appealed to me. I guess I was a normal boy, like any other boy, and then when I realized that I wasn't great at it, and I then suddenly sort of like I would just tell stories to my friends who were like really great soccer people, and I was like almost like the village cry. I was telling stories. So there was a moment of growth, a total acceptance that it's a gift that is not given to me. So it broke my heart when I realized that I wasn't really great at it. But
wonderful knowing what you were good at, and therefore you could exploit that, and hopefully that people could ignore the fact that you were not good on the soccer pitch.
And there were choirs when I was young in the township. I sang in choirs, and it was just so lovely to be in a school hall and with a choir master and you learning a song and whatever. One got to then explore just other avenues of excitement, a bit of a ticket to escapism from just the normal or the life that one was living in the township, and going to the village to my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, where I discovered that I was actually quite a good swimmer, and there was a river there that we would go swimming, and for a township kid, it was just like an amazing thing to jump on the bus and go to a village and to go somewhere else, to a different landscape, and with relatives, with friends that and people teasing you, because when you grow up in the township, there's something about the nuance of language. My language is isiZulu, where you will hear words that you don't hear in the township, and there's just this authenticity in the village around language, which was also. But at that time, I didn't know that I had a love of story. It was just. I promise you, Jen, I had no idea. But somebody will say a word, and I remember there was a guy we were playing, and he used the word ubulunga, which is just something. I'm from the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal, grew up in Durban, and then my parents came from that side, and that person was from the south coast. And it was a word I'd never heard before. And so there's just this idea of dialects, of things that was just stuck. And I said to this person, what does this mean? And they told me, and I said, well, I wouldn't use that word. I would use this word.
So you already knew
geographically. Also, there's a beautiful placement that comes from language when you hear, dialects, accents, and whatever they place us.
Okay,
these different lilts that we have.
I want to hear more about that and more about the journeys and the failures that led you to this place.
702.
The upside of failure.
Proof that a setback can lead to a step forward.
Do you remember that?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so
madness.
Madness.
Yeah.
Okay, so he knew you were going to make it, but we all know that in order to make it, things have to go wrong. Things have to go wrong. It's the only way that sort of fuels passion or reimagining your life. What is the worst thing that has happened to you, career-wise, emotionally-wise? What was the low point for you?
Career-wise, there was a film that I auditioned for. I worked and worked. It was a movie called Hotel Rwanda.
Mm-hmm, yes.
And the role I auditioned for went to the stunning Desmond Dube. And I went for like 5 callbacks for that film. And when you are asked to for callbacks, it means there's something that you are giving to the director that they can see. That, and by the time I did the 5th callback, I went back and my agent called me to her house and she said, come at 5:30. And I said, but you close at 5. And she said, come at 5:30. And I sat with my agent, and there was something all forlorn about her when I looked at her, and I said, are you okay? And she said, no, not really. And I said, why? She said, James, you didn't get this thing. I was finished. I remember she was in Parkhurst at that time. I just walked down. There used to be a restaurant called George on 4th. And I went and just sat at that place, and the waitress kept saying to me, are you going to order something? And I was just like, the disappointment was just unbearable for me. And 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 it took me a while actually to recover from it because of the hard work that I'd given to it. And the next week I discovered that it went to Desmond. I was so happy because Desmond is an amazing actor, and it was almost like a month later I get asked to audition for Dame Janet Suzman.
Okay. Before we go there,
yeah.
in this moment when you were down, did it feel like you'd been kicked in the stomach?
Yeah, a big kick in the stomach, and I just would wake up every day and go for a very long walk, and I remember a friend saw me walking, and they said, you love this walking, it keeps you fit, and I was thinking it's got nothing to do with fitness. I just needed solitude. I just needed to walk and work it out and just work it out.
And what went through your head in that period?
It was a big why. I just had a big why. I just I even prepared 3 different monologues for this piece. I remember one was a Chekhov, and one was a writing by Blok Modisane, and one was a Fugard. And I just wanted to really present like diverse stories to the director, and I think the healing came when I pragmatically said to myself it wasn't meant for me, but it's not easy.
Did it make you question your talent?
Yeah. You think, but what is it about what I presented that didn't hit the mark? And I guess the growing up is the acceptance that it wasn't.
So what was that turning point?
Yeah, the turning point is exactly a month later. My agent calls me, and I met with her, and I had to go and audition for Dame Janet Suzman, and I auditioned for her. I was cast in a second lead in London in a play called The Cherry Orchard that played in 9. I was in the UK for 9 months playing a huge role. And I had to speak a bit of Russian in like an iconic play, and around me I was just surrounded by gods and goddesses of West End. I was working with top actors.
Do you think you would have got that if you hadn't come to that realization that actually it wasn't your time, it wasn't the moment?
No, I needed that. So in life we need hurdles. Yeah. And we are equipped and with a how to jump a hurdle. And when it comes your way, you need to see it for what it is and be in that moment of wonderment. There's a huge hurdle. How do I get over it? And life gives you things that are innate in you, and you find a way to then, when you jump over that hurdle, then you find something that feels like bliss that was designed for you. And because I believe our paths were designed for us, and ours is to walk them. And in the walking of them, they're not easy, and so those moments that sometimes are quite philosophical about, when people say, why must it be easy for you? It's not easy. Nobody has it easy.
And I guess those hurdles sort of nudge you in all sorts of different directions that possibly you hadn't thought of taking. James, we're going to take the news headlines now, and we're going to continue talking.
702.
The upside of failure.
Proof that a setback can lead to a step forward.
So welcome back. I'm Jane Dutton in for Relebogile Mabotja, and with me in the office, in the studio, is James Ngcobo, and we're talking about the upside of failure. And we were talking about hurdles and how you really grow. And I'm just wondering, as a young kid, how did you deal with things that didn't go well? Was there rage? Was there anger? Do you take any of that with you now that you're older?
A weird thing also about being a kid, and at that moment you don't know it. There is, in a very weird way, a faculty that allows you to understand things as a kid, so there were things that happened that as you observe them, you understand as a kid you have no control over the trajectory of those things, but the one thing I always mention, I'm what you would call an apartheid kid. You know, I was born 1969. I grew up
Yeah.
in the township, and to this day, I always say we don't really take time to pause and take our
Process.
hats off to our parents who brought us up with such love. I mean, it's the one thing I know that I had when I was a kid. It was just buckets of love from my mother, from my father, from I had a whole lot of siblings. So there was moments that you see that are difficult, but at the same time, the flip side of that is that you are cared for, you are loved. And I think as a kid, you can't really write a thesis on it as a kid, but you accept things for what they are. And so children have that amazing thing of just an acceptance and a moving on from so for me that was just one of the and I sit back now in hindsight and I think of all those moments and I realize that they were all part of just like making a quilt. They were all part of shaping the person sitting in front of you now.
And how lucky
I
were
needed
you
that,
you had this sort of love to overcome or to sort of filter out that hatred that was there in the time in the 60s?
Yeah, no, so as you know, obviously in the 60s, I'm young, you know what I mean? But as time unfolds and I'm growing up in the 70s and I'm going to school, the 80s come with their complexities and whatever. And you are constantly just learning to start choosing. You are placed in a space where you need to start choosing, and especially when you're growing up in the township, you suddenly think it's either I go this way or I go this way, and you understand what it means to choose, and some of the choices are not hip, they're not cool, but you say, but they feel comfortable. This is where I need to be.
But it's those. I mean, we were talking about the hurdles a little bit earlier on. It's those hurdles, those things that you get wrong that I believe make you feel more appreciative of where you are. Right?
Yeah.
So you don't really appreciate it until you've had that moment where you go, I've totally botched this up.
Yeah.
I mean, in your creative space, is there something that you've done, a vision that you try to portray that didn't hit, that didn't land?
Yeah, so just before I answer that, and so I'm a father to two boys, and the older one is 34, and I've got a 21-year-old, and I've from all those lessons from me growing up, there was something that I absolutely committed to. I think sometimes we don't tell our kids how difficult life is. We create this utopia, and I think when we do tell our kids that life is difficult, you are giving them ammunition to deal with the difficulty when it comes their way. And so there are questions that when kids pose them, and we need to take time and really answer them with an idea. I've lived my whole life with an idea of an imminent grave. I live like that.
Really?
Yes, I live like that.
Why?
I come from a family where men died. Men kept dying very young, and the idea of death was always very close to me, and so it just brought this thing of every day is a walk towards an imminent grave.
Yeah.
And when I wake up and there's a breath in me and there's a commitment in me to say, yes, another day, I need to grab that day with everything I have, because I might not have it. And it's memories that are indelible in me, that when I was growing up, I buried so many men that I think back that now I'm 56, they never got to the age I'm at.
Incredible.
And they were, and so that idea of an imminent grave has made me a father who has an urgency. That when a child asks a question, I need to answer it, because I might not be around tomorrow to answer that question. And so it's...
I mean, that's quite ominous, but also beautiful. I mean, it certainly makes you live life to the fullest, doesn't it? If you think that this could happen to me at any stage.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And do you find that you become risk averse then because of this thing that's hamming like a Damocles sword? Do you become risk averse, or do you push yourself even harder?
You push yourself. You just everything you do. Everything I do it as a possible last thing that I get to do, and that's how I've always been. And so I'm quite urgent, and I'm a very patient person, but the only time when I'm not patient is when I'm surrounded by lethargy, by no
other people's lethargy.
I struggle when I'm around a person who when we have something that we must do, we need to break our backs to do it. And I always say, if there's another way, I don't want to learn it. And it's just like you say yes to something, and then you must do it. The best way you can. It might be great, it might not be great, but you did it.
Yes, and do it.
Yeah.
James, we're gonna keep talking. I've got a couple of voice notes to play for you, but let's first listen to this.
702.
The upside of failure.
Proof that a setback can lead to a step forward.
Was that an important character for you? Was it hard?
Yeah, it was. So before that, I'd done a lot of dramatic roles. I don't know if you remember a series called Hard Copy.
Yeah.
That was done a couple of years ago, produced by the company owned by Harriet Gavshon, which was called Curious Pictures at that time. And I was playing an editor of a newspaper opposite Fiona Ramsey. And a lot of the roles that I got to play, playing 90 Plain Street, and so this was like me really tapping into my funny bones, which was, and I'd had a taste of it when I did a scene with the great Rex Garner and Joe Mafela in a thing called Going Up, and sort of like discovered that I've got funny bones. So I was playing the lead in Stockfowl and playing a guy who's a Zulu man married to this Botswana lady, and he's trying so hard to learn her language. I remember a lady called Roberta Durant called me to sit in with the writers and to talk about the character, and I just said, I feel there's always been like a stereotype sometimes that happens with characters of different nations, different tribes and things, and I just said, I want to play a Zulu guy who is desperately trying to learn his wife's language, and every time he speaks it, it's wrong. And she mollycoddles him to the right way of saying it, and not knowing, and I had a great director called Vusti Bagwane who directed us, and not knowing that was like the genesis of the comedy that my character brought into the show. And I've always believed that when you're in a comedy, you need to play it as honest as you can, and not be aware that you're in a comedy.
Yes.
It's a situation comedy that you're in. It needs you to bring your heart to it, and then the laughter comes from that honesty. And blessed with a lady called Manaka Ranaka who played my wife. We just clicked, and me and Manaka. So that piece was created for me and another actress who couldn't do it. She got a film, and I was opening with a play at the market. I was playing a lead in a play directed by Fiona Ramsey, written by Monde Mayepu. I was playing a writer, and the producer called me and said, that other actress is no longer there. And they said, can you come tomorrow, James? We're seeing 7 women. And they said, we want you to be part of the decision of choosing the actress that's going to play your wife. And I arrived there already. Actress 1, Actress 2, Actress 3, Actress 4. The 5th one, when she walked in, there was just like an effervescence about her. She walked in, and I looked at her, and yes, I just knew, and we read, and I'd never met her in my life. After we finished the reading, we just passed like we've known each other forever. She walked out, and Joe Mafela and Roberta Durant said to me, what do you think? I said, this is the one. And they said, there's 2 more. And I said, yes, I know, but this, and the 2 more came in, they were beautiful, but we just didn't have the synergy that I had with Manaka. And we shot this thing in Cape Town for 9 years. And we just like, I used to wake up and run around the promenade there on in the Atlantic seaboard early in the morning,
prepare
myself for this piece, and we will shoot 2 episodes a week, just surrounded by finest talent that I was working with in this piece, and each actor just brought each actor just spewed their truth when we and I think that is why people still remember this piece.
I mean, there is something about that stage presence, and when there's a relationship between two people. I mean, talking about relationships, I know you are in one. I mean, how hard is it being in a job like yours, where you have to bond with people, where you get really close, where you get into their head?
Yeah.
How do you manage that and not failing in other relationships?
I mean, my lady in this year in April we made 30 years together.
Congratulations!
Yeah, it took us 15 years to get married. We've known each other for 30 years. We 15 years married. I think I've always approached relationships with an idea that nobody has ever had a perfect relationship in the history of time.
Of course not. Absolutely.
And relationships, you're not going to find them in an aisle at some shop next to the detergents and pick one, you know. So you work on a relationship, and I think I'm blessed like that. I have someone in my life where both of us have committed to fixing things that go wrong, and you know, there's no perfect, and I think I'll be bored in a perfect relationship. You know what I mean? And so it's and there's a time when time teaches you something. When you've been with somebody for a long time, there are things you accept that they will never change about them. Those things define who they are. But what has been beautiful for me is that, I mean, she's in a completely different world.
It's quite healthy, isn't it?
Yeah, and I see it with her and listen to what she's doing, and she reciprocates. She gives me that, and she knows me, and I've been an actor for years and years, but I really I think because I come from such a big family, I'm such a space freak. And I'm known. I'll have an opening night, and there's multitudes of people, and I greet everybody, and I find a moment, and I go home.
And you just
you know, and
Okay, so tell us. I mean, I want to know what's happening, what's coming up. We saw demonstrations on the streets yesterday. I mean, things aren't in too happy a place when it comes to actors, when it comes to directing in South Africa. Are we going to get it right?
I'm hoping we do get it right, and the appeals that needs.
I mean, a lot of people haven't been paid for many years.
Yeah, the president needs to sit down and look at some of the bills that will absolutely change the lives of all of us who are in the arts sector. It just needs a lot of caring from the government, and a clear shaping of what it is. I mean, the contribution to the GDP of this country is massive. That comes from our sector. But the one thing that I again take my hat off to everybody who's in this industry with me, with all the problems, we are constantly replenishing a breath and making things.
No, extraordinary. I must say, I'm such supporters of you and the talent, and we have a lot out there. So what's the next thing? What can we look forward to? What are you going to be doing?
Yes, so as you know, I've just finished a production that we did at the theatre, at the Joburg Theatre, adaptation of Fred Khumalo's Dancing the Death Drill, and the next piece that I'm doing is called An Ode to Motown.
Lovely.
We are looking at the story, looking at Perikodi, we're looking at Detroit, we're looking at the temperature at the time when he started this iconic studio that to this day people are still recording at Motown. And I've got 5 engineers that I'm working with. Lerato Velase, I've got Tamara Day, I've got Anel Mtetwa, I've got Mhlengiwe Dlamini that I'm working with. I've got Liesel, that amazing singer from a group called Jamali. So I'm busy now just putting together this piece. We start rehearsals in January, and it's going to open and be running in February at the Joburg Theatre. And I'm inviting people to just come and hear these canaries that I've put together, and the music that we put, and we're looking at old Motown, and we're looking at 21st century Motown. Motown. So it's just going to be just a piece about who Berry Gordy was and him starting Motown. What did that do to music? And I'm always fascinated by how songwriters write songs sometimes that are in conversation with the world. I mean, Marvin Gaye wrote a song called "What's Going On." A lot of people don't know that is in response to the Vietnam War. You know, and so
Yes.
just that idea that world events or events that happen in a country, they become a muse for people who are writers, because you deal with it and the response is that you then produce something artistically that adds on that narrative. So we've just opened bookings and it's selling like crazy.
No, I can
and
imagine.
I'm just saying to people, if you want to see this piece called An Ode to Motown, book now for the tickets at Joburg Theatre.
We'll be there. I'll be in the front row. Just wonderful talking to you, James
Thank you
Ngcobo,
so much.
South African Artistic Director. Loved your energy. Thank you.
Bless you. Thank you so much.
Spend your afternoon
With Relebogile Mabotja.
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.